We all strive for excellence in our job. And many of us have accomplished excellence. Like we leave the zone of competence and we are operating at the zone of excellence. But we are 100% replaceable. Like I could not show up at work tomorrow and somebody would take my place within a week.
Welcome to the Doctor's Eyes Only podcast, brought to you by Vestia Personal Wealth Advisors, where we are on a mission to help the highest caliber physicians achieve wealth that matters. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Doctor's Eyes Only podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Oschman, and today's episode is for every physician who's ever felt stretched too thin, pulled in 100 different directions, and maybe guilty for even thinking about saying no to something. I'm joined by Dr. Sasha Shillcutt. She's a cardiac anesthesiologist, a professor, a national speaker, and founder of the Brave Enough Conference, which we'll talk about, who literally wrote the book on boundaries for high-achieving women. I have it here on my desk today. It's called Brave Boundaries, if you want to pick it up yourself. In this conversation, we're going to talk about what boundaries really are, how to know where you need them, and how to actually implement them without guilt. If you have been feeling overwhelmed or like your work-life balance is constantly out of whack, this one is for you. I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome, Sasha.
Thank you, Lauren. And thank you for saying my name right. You're like one of the 2%ers who has podcast hosts who has actually pronounced my name correctly from the get-go. You always have. And so I love that about you.
Oh my goodness. I think names are so important. I always I have a brain to remember those things where I'm like, oh, that one was not how I thought it was going to be pronounced. And I never forget it because it's so important when I've been called Laura so many times and I'm like, it's Lauren, there's an N.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm happy to be able to do that for you.
Thank you. We're already starting out winning right here by the correct pronunciation.
I love it. That's perfect. So I thought maybe it would be helpful before we dive into talking about some of these, boundaries and things like that, which I myself am actually excited to learn from. I did read the book a couple years ago, but I think I've gotten a little rusty. So this is great. How is it that you, a physician, came to write a book about boundaries?
Yeah, I love this. And I love that, you can't go on Instagram now and not read something about boundaries. But for me, I was really one of the first people to kind of come out and realize that this is something that I never learned about, despite going to school for ages upon ages. As you know, physicians go to school into their 30s and having all these continuing medical education courses and leadership courses. And, I went to Harvard courses on how to manage my time and how to be a good leader. And I went to courses on how to have wellness and how to be a good mom and how to be a good teacher and all the things. I never took a course or learned anything professionally on boundaries. I thought boundaries, if someone were to say the word boundary to me, in my brain, it went to someone going through a toxic end of a relationship or something, or boundaries with your ex-husband or ex-partner. I did not understand that so many of my personal problems with time management, with guilt, with parenting, with friendships, with my husband, with my boss, with my clients, with the women I coach, I did not realize that almost 95% of them came down to boundaries or lack of boundaries. I didn't know what the language was. I didn't possess that education. I didn't even know what to name it or how to go about setting a boundary until I burned out to the point where I sought a therapist. I went to a therapist for the very first time. I talk about this in the book. And she said, you need boundaries, because I was telling her what was going on in my life. And honestly, what was going on in my life was not anything crazy. It was probably something that 95% of the people listening could identify with. I'm overwhelmed. I'm exhausted. I feel really bad saying no to people that need me. I don't know how to create time for myself. I feel like I'm constantly spinning in behind and failing someone. And she said, you need boundaries. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And so I dove deep, but the majority of everything I read about boundaries was more applicable, not to the everyday, woman, mom, physician, dad, trying to just get through life. It didn't really apply. Some of those things did, but there wasn't like a book, like a blueprint for just an average human being who may work outside the home and maybe raising a family or has aging parents. And so that's kind of how this whole thing started. And I became an expert on boundaries.
Yeah, no, I love that you share that kind of the way you came into it and thinking like you were so far into this career where you had so much education and then realized that there was really this whole area that, or this skill set that you just didn't possess that was like drowning you. I think I did a time management program a couple of years ago with a woman named Kelly Nolan, who's a fantastic follow on Instagram. Her program was very helpful to me. But the reason was because it started with, if you can't fit all of your to-dos into your calendar, the problem is not you. The problem is there are too many things to do. And so you have to start saying no. So it's the same thing that you kind of came to in a little bit of a different way. It was less that word boundaries, which I would be like you. I'd be like, okay, what is that? How do I do that? So I guess, I mean, because you kind of reframe boundaries as like, this is a way to actually invest in yourself. So help us understand, like, what's the reframe from like boundaries being something that cause guilt to boundaries being something that give you freedom?
I love this question. And I love that you understand this because you provide a service to people who are highly educated that lack an understanding and an expertise in what you are an expert in. And no one would think, oh my gosh, I shouldn't go to someone that's a financial expert for my finances. I should just know it all. Most of us do. We are smart enough to go, I don't know this. But when it comes to our own internal kind of ability to manage our time or to manage the people around us, or what I say, manage our energy, we think we're supposed to have it figured out. And if we don't have it figured out, something is definitely wrong with us. And we struggle with getting help or going to someone, a coach or an expert, and saying like, help me with this. So the reframe for me was huge because I realized that boundaries are not just about keeping the bad out. If that's what you think of a boundary, then when you set a boundary, you're going to be thinking that this person is bad and you have to keep them stop. It may be the best thing ever. Like your best friend may say, hey, my 50th birthday is this weekend and I'm having this major party and it coincides with something that you need to be at for your family. It's not, and you have to set a boundary. It's not bad what you're being asked to do. It's actually wonderful. But so I want the reframe, if you're listening, to be boundaries keep the good in. They don't just keep the bad out. They keep the good in your life, your health, your relationships, your communication, your success in life, really, like even just your ability to show up fully at work and in your personal life. That's what a boundary does. Nothing more. It's not toxic. It's not mean. It's not something bad. It's not like discipline where you're like criticizing someone or disciplining someone. It's simply a protection of your energy and keeping your energy safe and protected for the things in your life that are important to you.
Yeah, I love that so much. And just thinking about, I mean, like you said, it's very obvious. And I would use my health as an example. It's very obvious that I should not know everything that I need to know about my health. I need to go to a doctor. You're like, I should not know everything I need to know about finance. But for some reason, when it comes to this area of kind of self-improvement and wellness and, all of that for ourselves, we feel like we're supposed to know everything. And if we show up somewhere and say that we don't, that's some kind of failure. And certainly all of the physicians that are listening are not accustomed to failure.
No. And we also live in a comparison society. So everything that is on social media is meant to make you feel like you're lacking something. You're lacking the best teeth whitener. You're lacking the best protein to, shake. You need better clothes. You need better, house. Yes, yeah. You need this, fantastic thing. And we've all been there at 3 a.m, on Instagram purchasing things we don't need. And part of that though is seeing people on Instagram and going like, oh, I don't have what she has. I'm not as organized as she is. I'm not as successful. Why does she seem to be doing everything and getting everything done? And I'm struggling to like take a shower today and amidst the 20 things I have going on. So it's super easy for us to internalize this feeling when we're overwhelmed, when we're stretched, when we find ourselves in times of burnout or just complete overwhelm to go, this is on me. This is my problem. And I should be able to fix this.
Right. So how do you find those areas? I mean, because some of that you're talking about, I think we don't traditionally think of as boundaries. Like you said, it's a situation with a person or an ex or, whatever. We don't necessarily think of these in the everyday life at work or at home or whatever. So can you help kind of paint the picture of like, how do we find those places where we need boundaries, and what could some examples of those be?
Yeah. So I talk about this in the book as like a workbook and a frame of, you have to know what is important to you. So you have to know your priorities. And I think if you ask most people, they'll be able to just go, oh, these are my priorities, my family, my kids, my job, my health, whatever. But does that match your calendar? That's the second question, right? And for most of us, it doesn't. Like we say, oh, I prioritize my family, but then we find ourselves on the phone at night when we're watching our kids' sports event, trying to on the phone with work or whatever. So how we really figure this out is, okay, we have to take a step back and say, like, these are my priorities. And these are the things that in the next 6 months or year, I want to prioritize. I want to prioritize dinner time with my family, or I want to have one day a week that I spend doing XYZ, or I want to prioritize my health. And so we have these priorities. And then what we have to do is we have to ask ourselves, what boundaries are required in our current life to keep these every day as a priority? So that means if someone is going to ask me to, like, for example, I love public speaking. I love traveling, speaking. I do a lot of keynote speaking. I would do it, honestly. I would say yes to every talk if I could. But it competes with a main priority, which is to be present for my kids. So I have a very strict rule on how many speaking engagements I accept a year. And that means I have to say no to people I love, people I respect, people that offer me amazing speaking gigs, and I have to say no to that. That's just a boundary. That's all it is. It's not emotional. Once I set it in the context of I'm saying no because I have these priorities that I'm going to honor myself and I'm going to show up for myself this year. So I know that in next November, I can only do one talk a month and I have to say no to this amazing gig because it's all about my priorities. And once I see it as a boundary that I'm setting and not as like this guilty, oh, I'm so sorry, I can't do that, I'm blah, blah, blah. I don't take on the guilt. I see what I'm saying yes to, which is showing up for me. And it just takes all the emotion and the stress and the negativity and the guilt out of saying no.
We built our firm around one goal: helping physicians achieve wealth that matters. Time with your family, freedom in your schedule, and confidence in your decisions. Not sure how you're doing today? Head to vestiaadvisors.com/DEO, that's DEO for Doctor's Eyes Only, to take our 3-minute physician wealth checkup and get a snapshot of where you stand today and what to do next. I like that a lot because you're thinking about, you just have to make a choice that you're going to see it this way and not this way. Because obviously, I mean, you can play both sides of that coin. You can say like, oh, this is something, it makes sense that I would get pushback or I might feel guilty or, whatever. But you're saying, but I'm choosing this and I'm going to stay in that frame of mind and know that this is like, I'm going to be able to show up better in my life and for those priorities that are most important to me because I set this boundary and I'm holding it. So I'm curious because I know a lot of particularly women that I'm talking with struggle not as much with the boundaries at work, because I think that's easier to kind of frame. It's easier to say, okay, I take one speaking gig a month, or, I do this many I'll do this many extra call shifts, or, whatever. It's easy to kind of set those boundaries. I think it can be harder when it comes to home. And sometimes you need both because you can't, again, there's only so much time in the day. There's only so much energy in you to give to each day. So what would that look like on the home front if you're trying to do the same thing to make sure that you can show up the way you want to at home and then at work?
So important, because I would say I coach a lot of women. I have coaching courses, and I would honestly say that the majority of women come to me when they think they need boundaries in the workplace, work-life balance, right? And when we dig in, they are significantly lacking any boundaries at home with their kids, with their family, with their friends. And the reason is because they work outside the home and they feel that when they're at home, they should be 24/7 there for their kids. They should never miss an event. Even if they've been up for 24 hours, they should be like, go to this thing or go to that or show up for this. And it can just lead to so much dysfunction, not only for you and unhealthiness for you, but also for your kids. And once I realized this, it was like a game changer because I want kids that set boundaries. I want to raise my children. And I think I have because they're teenagers now and I'm seeing evidence where they're
kids,
like,
right?
I have 4 kids and they will say to me, Mom, I don't want to go to that. I'm tired. I've had a long week. I had 3 tests this week. I've had 4 soccer practices. I'm going to stay home. And I go, you know what? I love that you just said that. Like, I love that you are expressing your boundaries, what is best for you in this moment. I've even had my teenagers call me and say, Mom, my friends are all going to this thing and can I go? Wink, wink, wink. And they want me to say, no, you can't go because they don't want to go. They're so tired. They just want to come home. And I'm like, you need to like own this and just say your friends are not going to, they're still going to be your friends tomorrow. Even if you don't go to this event or don't go to this thing, they're still going to be your friends. This is part of adulting and growing up and becoming a human being that's responsible is telling your friends no. Practice saying no to the people you love. There's the people that love you are still going to be there tomorrow. So a lot of moms of little kids have 0 boundaries and they don't think they can set boundaries with their little people. I promise you can. For example, when my kids were little, I realized like, I just sometimes wanted to get away from them. I mean, have we all been there, right? Like we come home and we love them so much. And then within 15 minutes, you're like, I have to get away from this person for like 10 minutes.
I just need a minute.
I just need a minute to think. So
I have little kids, so this is real for
you
me.
understand, right?
Yes.
Like, but then you have guilt because you're like, I've been gone all day and they need me and I need to be super mom and I need to be there for 24/7. So I had a space in my bedroom. I had a little chair and I made it like a little nook for myself. And I called it like my mom space. And I taught my little people and they would come running in my bedroom. If I was in this space, they could not talk to me unless they were dying. Like they had to be bleeding or like hemorrhaging or some tragedy to bother me. And they would literally like come running in my bedroom and they would look at me and they would be like, oh, shh, Mom's in her space. And they would run back out, you know? And I taught them that they too could have a space. Like their bedroom was their space. If they want to get away from any of us, if they're feeling frustrated, if they're feeling angry or whatever, they just need downtime, go to their space. They learned this, like age 2, they could learn this. So I try to also teach moms that it's okay to set boundaries at home. Your kids want the best you. And if that means like you guys eat dinner, I've had a really bad day and I just need to think about some stuff. Here's dinner, have dinner without me. I'm going to be in my bedroom, like just decompressing for 15 minutes and then I'll come back out here and be mom again.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I heard one of my mentors kind of framed it as, you know, he's like, at one point I realized my family was getting my leftovers. Like I was giving everything to work. My family was getting my leftovers. And so that's kind of what I'm thinking about as you're talking. It's like, that's also not what you want. You want to show up and be, you know, super mom, super dad, like make up for every minute that you missed while you were at work. But it's like, if you're completely exhausted and your heart's not in it, your family's going to feel that too. And so even if it's that 10, 15 minutes to recharge and set that example for your kids, I love that thought because it's like the way you would take care of your kids in those kind of moments is probably the way that you should take care of yourself. And we don't think about it that way.
Yes. And, you know, like all of us have to remember that you are 100% replaceable at work. We don't like to think we are because we're really high achievers and we all strive for excellence in our job. And many of us have accomplished excellence. Like we leave the zone of competence and we are operating at the zone of excellence. And but we are 100% replaceable. Like I could not show up at work tomorrow and somebody would take my place within a week, like 100%. No matter what anyone says, how great of a doctor, how special you are, how great of the leadership skills you have. It's true. But no one is replaceable as a mom or a dad or a parent or a friend or a daughter. Like, you can't replace yourself. And so sometimes, and I say this as a high achieving type A person, sometimes showing up 100% for my family is showing up 80% at work.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's okay. Like, newsflash,
Yeah.
that is okay to do. Now, sometimes I also have to say, like, to my kids, like, for example, when both times I've written a book, writing a book, I didn't quit my job to write a book for a year each time. Like, I had to keep doing all the things. I took it on an extra job. And so I would have to say to my kids, like, I'm writing this book. And that means, like, I'm going to have to take time on nights and weekends to write this book. So I just need you to all understand that, like, for the next year, there's going to be things that I don't attend. There's going to be things that I have to miss to do this. It doesn't mean that you're not important to me. I don't love you. And they were like, okay, Mom, like, they get it. Like, they're fine. But it was more in here for me, like, thinking, and so it's both your work and your family life. I think sometimes you have to just realize, like, I cannot give 110% to everybody all the time. I just can't.
Yeah. No, I think that makes a ton of sense. And I think, what I'm thinking as you're talking is that the communication is key. Obviously, if you just, and we've all probably done this before, it's like in your head, you set a boundary or you're holding a boundary. You don't actually communicate well with the people who are on the receiving end of that, or maybe who are kind of tangentially involved in the fact that you've said yes to something or said no to something. And so being able to communicate with them and set good expectations so that you're not letting them down. It's like, oh, we talked about this. This is what this is going to be for a while.
100%. That's actually one of the 4 steps of boundary setting is communicating. Like, who do you need to set the boundary with? Because a boundary that lives in your head is not a boundary. It's a wish. And you're going to that's when people get irritated with others. They get frustrated with others.
Mm-hmm.
If you find yourself in a position where you're angry that someone has even asked you to do something, then that's on you. Because that means that you don't feel that you have the agency to say no without guilt, or you have this expectation that people are supposed to know how busy you are. First of all, nobody knows how busy you are. Everyone else is just equally as busy, and they're doing 100 things. You cannot expect people to read your mind. And so I remember feeling for several years of my career, I would get asked, will you do this, write this paper? Will you give this talk? Can you take on this committee? And I would find myself growing increasingly angry and bitter and resenting the people that were asking me to participate, when in reality, it was a Sasha problem. Because the bottom line is, I just did not know I did not see that I should not be, like, angry. I should be like, this is amazing. Lauren has asked me to write a paper. She thinks so great of me, and she loves my work that she's asking me to be part of this project. However, I get to say no to Lauren or yes to Lauren. I have the agency. It's not on Lauren, it's on me. And once you realize that, it changes everything, because then you see the asks that are coming to you as compliments, not responsibilities or extra work that's supposed to weight you down. You see, I have the agency to say no to this. I have the agency to say yes to this. Or I have the agency, if it's my boss, to say, I'm happy to take on this new project. What do you want me to stop doing? So that I have the space, right? And how much are you going to pay me, right? Because currently this is not part of my job description.
Right.
That is on us as humans to set those boundaries. Once we see that and we understand that language, it's such a game changer.
Yeah, I like that. I like what would you like me to stop doing? Knowing that you can't just continue to say yes to more and more. I think the other thing that helps me is to understand that these things are seasonal. Like you're talking about, sometimes you're giving 100% at home and 80% at work, or vice versa. But it's also, as your kids grow, like you're talking about teenage kids, I still have younger kids. And so things change. And so things that you maybe need to say no to today, there will be more opportunities. You will continue to be excellent. More opportunities will continue to come your way. And there will be a season where that is something you can say yes to, because something else that you needed to do maybe in the current season will be something you can say no to. So I think this is all very enlightening. And what I'm thinking of as you're talking too is there are probably doctors listening who are in two different camps. Some who are completely past the point of like they needed boundaries years ago and they're thinking, oh my goodness, how do I go blow up my life? And then the other side where it's like, maybe looking ahead at physicians who are burned out and saying, I don't want to get there. So I think implementing your advice proactively makes sense to me. That's something that you can say, okay, great. You can get the book. You can, take the action. You can craft things such that you're holding those boundaries that are in line with your goals and values and all of that early. What if you're that doctor that's listening and you're like, I wish I would have heard this years ago. Like, where do I even start?
Love it. I have these questions probably 10 times a year. I get an email from someone saying exactly this. And my answer is, first of all, I have like 2 different courses that I teach, one in the spring that's 3 months and then one in the fall that's 8 months. And I encourage those people to sign up. And if it's not my course, it's another coaching course for 8 months to a year to do this, because transformation takes that long to actually operationalize. This is like saying, we're going to open a new clinic tomorrow. Okay. You can't do that. Right? You have to like strategize. You have to peel back the onions, because some physicians who, and this is so important, like the more successful you are, the more of a woman or man of your word you are, and you show up in your life for people, the more is going to be asked of you, which means the more boundaries you have to have, the more no, the stronger. So it's a whole like strategy that we do. And it takes, I used to just do a 3-month course only. And then so many women were like, okay, I've just gotten the language. I've gotten the plan. I've gotten the strategy, but I haven't actually implemented it. It takes a long time. It took me a year to kind of get out of this burnout that I was in and this overcommitment, this overwhelm, and to have the language and the skills to communicate to my family, communicate to my boss, communicate to my colleagues, slowly start to peel back from these responsibilities where I felt like a year later, I was truly putting my energy into things that I valued and not things that I felt guilty or I should. So I really encourage people, like, don't be so hard on yourself. It takes a while to implement boundaries, to have the language around them, but it can be done at any age. I have, 65-year-old women physicians in my courses who are 5 years away from retirement. And they're like, I don't want to spend the next 5 years doing the same things I've always been doing. I want to do this. How do I do that? Like, how do I change my career that I've been doing for 30 years? It can be done. It can be done. I also have, young physicians who are like, oh my gosh, I'm young and I've said yes to everything because no one told me I could say no. And I'm honored to even be asked, but now I'm burned out and I see the trajectory I'm going on. How do I get off this path? We can do it. Like, anyone can do it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that. And you get one version of your life. We all get we get one chance to live our life. And so what you don't want to do is look back and realize that you lived the life everyone else wanted you to live and you didn't live the life that you yourself actually chose. And so boundaries is how you do that.
Yes, yes.
So transitioning a little bit, because I know the Brave Enough conference is coming up here in just a couple of months. One of our Vestia partners, Jackie Denson, will be there. That's a conference that we have been really a proud sponsor of for a number of years now. And I know it is really like it's focused on focusing on yourself, right? There are all these women physicians that come and it's like, this is your time to focus on yourself and focus on community and all of these things. So tell us about the conference.
Thank you for asking. And thank you for being a sponsor. Vestia has been a great sponsor for us, and you all just get it. Like, some people are like, what? And what's in it for us? You all just get it. You show up and the women love you all. They know you. And so thank you so much for being a partner in this. The conference is really for the whole woman physician, like your whole life. Like, one day, the curriculum is really about taking your pulse and taking an assessment. We get right into it. Like, where are your boundaries? What's your current health and well-being? Are you really truly fulfilled in your career? Are you doing the things in your job that bring you joy? And then the next day is like, okay, that was career. And then the next day is like, oh my gosh, what are the boundaries I need to set? Like, what are the things I need to say no to? And how do I do that? How do I have those conversations? How do I start? How do I make the list? And then the last day is really about your personal health and well-being, home, health, all of that kind of stuff. Finances, we go over that because we want you to leave there feeling better. We don't want you to leave there like feeling like so often you go to conferences and you're just exhausted when you come home. Every afternoon, we give you time off because I want you to think about the questions from the morning sessions. I want you to rest. I want you to go to the pool. I want you to coach, if that's what you want. We have free coaching sessions. I want you to go to the spa. Like, I want you to enjoy the beautiful luxury resort that we have this conference at. It drives me crazy when I go to conferences or like 4 or 5-star resorts and I'm in the conference the whole time. I'm like, I didn't even get to see the hotel lobby or the bar or the pool or the spa. So
yeah, the beach. You're like, I'm at West Palm Beach and I've been in this conference room for 3 days. And then you're like, I feel like I should see the ocean before I head back to the airport.
Exactly. It's crazy. It is so crazy when we do that because I'm like, I'm glad that I flew halfway across the country to go to a board meeting in this beautiful resort and I've been stuck in a cold conference room for 12 hours. So I want you to leave the Brave Enough Women CME conference feeling renewed, feeling refreshed, and feeling like equipped to go back to your life and just dominate it. Like, I'm not saying I'm not doing this anymore. I'm doing this. I'm getting organized. I'm exercising if that's what's important to me for 20 minutes a day. I'm hiring people to help me. I'm whatever it is you need, you're going to hear from people you won't hear any other conferences and ever, because I specifically have women at my conference speaking that are experts in things you don't have access to in medicine, but that are so helpful to you. And it's just an amazing conference. If you've never come, you should totally check it out because it's really phenomenal.
Is there still space open for this year?
There are, yes. And
Perfect.
just Google the Brave Enough Women CME conference and you're going to find lots of information about it.
I love it. It's at a beautiful resort in Scottsdale. I got the opportunity to go 3 or 4 years ago, I think. Went with Jackie and then she's continued to go every year with other team members of ours. And I know, it's such an empowering environment to be in a community. I remember actually a few years ago when I went talking to this cardiologist and she was the only woman in her group. She was like feeling completely overwhelmed with how she was supposed to be navigating her career and her life. All these different things. And just, she was like, I found this conference last year and she was like, it changed my life because I found people who were like me and I didn't have those before. So I love that. And I love the downtime and the pool's gorgeous. So amazing experience. And you get CME for it.
Yeah. Best of both worlds, right? Like you get fun CME, not death by PowerPoint, but like real CME from real people who are going to like talk to you about things that matter the most to you.
Yeah. And learning things that are actually going to help you live that better version of your life, which is ultimately what it's all about. So
absolutely.
That's perfect. So my last question for you, Sasha, we at Vestia, we do financial planning. We've kind of alluded to that as we go for doctors. But one of the things that's very important to us is we have this mission to help doctors achieve wealth that matters. So the idea that financial wealth is only part of it, having wealth of relationships, time, all of these other things are also very important because if you put everything, like if you focus everything on the money, on the financial part of wealth, you've actually kind of missed the point of life. So I would love to hear from you. What does wealth that matters mean to you?
I love this question. It's a good one. The first thing that comes to my mind is autonomy. I think that being in traditional academic medicine for years and years, I have come to really appreciate autonomy. And to me, that means working at a pace and working as much or as little as feels best to me in my season of life. I don't think as physicians, a lot of times we feel that we have any autonomy. And so wealth to me means having the ability to say, this year I'm going to work this many days a week, this many hours, and I'm going to take this much vacation off and paid time off. Or I'm going to work at this level doing these things. And it changes in different seasons of our life. Certainly when we first graduate and we have loans and we don't have, a great portfolio, we're starting out, we're trying to figure out what we're doing. It is so easy to become conditioned to a lifestyle as a physician that where you have to work at 120% for 30 years. I'm entering what I would say is my third decade of medicine. So I just turned 50 this year. And the one thing that I realized was like, I don't want to be working at the same level and pace that I did when I was 30 years old. And if I am, I've done something wrong. I want to be putting my energy into new things and growing my business, starting a new business, doing a lot of things. So that means cutting back for me. And that's that autonomy that I have. And I just cherish it. I cherish it so much.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a word that I don't think anyone has used to describe their wealth that matters before, but I think it's a word that makes so much sense, especially when you kind of frame the freedom that gives you over time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Sasha, for being so generous with your time, for teaching us all scraping the surface of boundaries and boundary setting. Again, Sasha's book, Brave Boundaries, you can get wherever you want to buy your books. We'll make sure that we link to those resources as well as the website for the Brave Enough Conference. So you can find that if you're interested in checking those things out. Thank you all for listening. Please do subscribe. We have some great guests coming up. You will not want to miss them. And take care till next time. Are you looking to hire a financial advisor with physician-specific expertise? At Vestia, we work exclusively with doctors, helping you navigate things like student loan repayment, reviewing RVU-based contracts, navigating practice buy-ins or private equity offers, optimizing retirement plans, designing tax-smart investment strategies, and planning for things like parental leave or early retirement. We have over 150 years of combined experience working with specialized physicians. So chances are, if you're thinking about it, we've helped another doctor through it. We built our firm around one goal, helping physicians achieve wealth that matters. Planning that's not just about numbers, but about designing the life you actually want to live. That means your wealth lets you live the life you imagined when you first started this journey. Time with your family, freedom in your schedule, and confidence in your decisions. Not sure how you're doing today? Head to vestiaadvisors.com/DEO, that's DEO for Doctor's Eyes Only, to take our 3-minute physician wealth checkup and get a snapshot of where you stand today and what to do next. Thank you for listening to the Doctor's Eyes Only podcast. We hope today's conversation advanced your journey to wealth that matters. Please make sure to follow and subscribe so you don't miss a single one of our amazing episodes we have coming up. See you next time. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Vestia Advisors, LLC. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. It should not be construed as legal or tax advice and is not intended to replace the advice of a qualified attorney or tax advisor. This information is not an offer or a solicitation to buy or sell securities. Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Before investing, you should consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses associated with investment products. Investment decisions should be based on an individual's own goals, time horizon, and tolerance for risk. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Diversification and asset allocation do not ensure a profit or guarantee against loss. Consult your financial professional before making any investments. Investment advisory services offered through Vestia Personal Wealth Advisors, Vestia Retirement Plan Consultants, and Vestia Advisors, LLC. Securities offered through Osdale Financial Partners, Inc., 5187 Utica Ridge Road, Davenport, Iowa, 52807. Member, FINRA, SIPC. Vestia Personal Wealth Advisors, Vestia Retirement Plan Consultants, Vestia Advisors, LLC, and Osdale Financial Partners, Inc. are independently owned and operated.